Chapter 66. Tungwin Hospital, 20. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Let's go to Sin City. Ferrara plus Tungwin Arc End. The New Asia Alliance has a total of 50 sea districts, and each sea-level city has its unique irreplaceability. And New City, C55 District, is the Alliance's arsenal. The economic lifeline of New City is firmly controlled by the local large-scale arms dealers, who have absolute power and even collude with the magistrate to continuously channel money and resources for greater gains. The magistrate, supported by armed forces, is an absolute dictator, wielding an iron fist, bestowed with the title, Tyrant, by the outside world. Unlike Ferrara's democratic elections, the magistrate in New City has not changed for 26 consecutive years. The admission criteria for C55 district were notoriously strict even before the apocalypse. New City does not welcome refugees, rejects people from remote areas, and the entry approval process is complex and cumbersome. The backgrounds of newcomers, if even slightly ambiguous, would be ruthlessly turned away, even if they were completely innocent without any suspicion. Sometimes, applications submitted might have no progress for months. This situation escalated after the apocalypse, gradually becoming extreme, and New City almost blocked all admission channels. If Ferrara welcomed all incoming travelers, then New City welded its gates shut, refusing entry to anyone. Zhuang Qingyan finished analyzing the information about New City. Song Ke counted on her fingers. Well, refugee, knowing that Fang Jishu is currently missing, can only be considered a refugee, coming from the remote area, her and Xu Xing, and those with unclear backgrounds, Zhuang Qingyan and Su Cha. It seems they've all fallen into the trap. Lin Yue still has a bit of hope, but she's operating outside and can't use her real name. No wonder Fang Jishu said that knowing was futile. If she were a household registration officer in New City, she wouldn't let these dangerous elements in. After Fang Jishu listened, he stared at Zhuang Qingyan and asked, "How do you know so much?" Song Ke immediately chimed in, "He knows all the information about the alliance." While saying this, she proudly raised her chin, looking like she had some honor, as if Zhuang Qingyan had given her face. Zhuang Qingyan caught a glimpse of her expression and silently curved his mouth. "Sneak in and give it a try?" Su Cha, who had been listening quietly, suggested an idea that suited his personality. Zhuang Qingyan quickly denied, "The border is heavily guarded, and there's a specialized organization to combat intruders. I'm afraid that as soon as you step into New City, you'll be greeted by thousands of particle cannons, reducing you to ashes in just 3 seconds. Is there really no other way?" Lin Yue asked, "Like coming up with a special reason, official business trip, or visiting relatives?" Zhuang Qingyan shook his head. "It's hard to deceive the registration department of the Alliance." The group sighed instantly. Xu Xing was a beat slower and, to fit in, sighed along, looking like a little adult. Fang Jishu's expression remained calm, but the flames of hatred burned slowly in his heart, never extinguishing. He had long learned to face the reality of helplessness. In the midst of silence, Zhuang Qingyan slowly spoke up, "Actually, there might be a way." 5 pairs of eyes looked at him in unison. Song Ke urged, "Speak quickly." Pausing for a moment, she added, "Keep it simple, no beating around the bush." Zhuang Qingyan, whose old accounts were inadvertently brought up, cleared his throat. "Without admission permission, we could forge a fake one. All information about household registration is synchronized to personal terminals. Just tamper with it a bit, make it look real, change our household registration location to C55 district. That way, we won't need to submit an admission application and can enter New City without anyone noticing." "You mean, hack the registration department system and alter the results?" Lin Yue was surprised. This guy was really audacious. Song Ke thought of Ilya. Her ability level was modified by him. If not for Punk, she might have been kept in the dark. It was a good idea, but achieving seamless perfection was lacking a crucial element. Song Ke looked at Zhuang Qingyan with mixed feelings and said, "Can you hack the system? Can you hack the system?" Xu Xing, like a follower, furrowed his little brow and imitated Song Ke's expression, asking, "Yeah, speaking so casually, can you?" Lin Yue crossed her hands and glanced at him skeptically. The remaining two males gave Zhuang Qingyan a bit of face, just looking at him with a hint of suspicion. "I can't." Zhuang Qingyan's answer was quite straightforward. "Song Ke, if you can't, why boast about it?" Zhuang Qingyan said slowly, "I can't do it, but someone else can." Song Ke, Xu Xing, and Lin Yue asked in unison, "Who?" Zhuang Qingyan mentioned a name. "Do you remember Lu Xinglan?" Song Ke nodded. "I remember." Lu Xinglan, due to impure eye color, wasn't highly regarded in the Lu family. Even if he went missing, it wouldn't attract much attention. However, as a genetic candidate, he awakened the Lu family's exclusive hacker ability. "You want to find Lu Xinglan?" Song Ke reminded, "But he's with Ilya." Zhuang Qingyan smiled slightly. "I'm not looking for him. He just reminded me of someone. 10 years ago, in the Lu family, there was an astonishingly talented and brilliant individual named Lu Xiaoyu. He was the top-notch hacker, whether within the Lu family or across the entire alliance. As long as there was data, he could easily defy everyone. I considered him, let's say, a friend." Zhuang Qingyan's eyelid twitched, thinking of the glorious deeds this friend dragged him into. They were all extremely unpleasant memories. "Where is he now, Urgia?" Song Ke asked. Zhuang Qingyan said solemnly, "No, he's in the death prison." Ah, not only Song Ke, but everyone else looked extremely shocked. Su Cha suddenly spoke, "By the death prison, do you mean the one in F180 district?" "That's right," Zhuang Qingyan said, "the underground death prison of Sin City." The alliance districts were not only classified by levels, but much information could be inferred from the numbering. For example, the lower the number, the stronger the overall strength, and the higher the status in the alliance. F180 district, on the other hand, was the worst among the worst, completely abandoned by the alliance, the kind they wished to discard immediately. Although it didn't have a name, it had a dread-inducing alias, City of Sin. Song Ke couldn't understand. If Lu Xiaoyu was as formidable as Zhuang Qingyan described, he should have been highly regarded within the Lu family. How could he have fallen to such a lightless place as the death prison? Zhuang Qingyan sighed, because Lu Xiaoyu is not only a genius but also a complete madman. 5 years ago, he almost destroyed Lu family's supercomputer. After the alliance trial, they decided to banish him to the death prison, with the sentence lasting until the end of his life, never to be reincarnated. Everyone fell silent. The supercomputer was the cornerstone of the Lu family. So was this the "I'm ruthless enough to eliminate even myself." Lu Xiaoyu was indeed a lunatic. "So, are you suggesting that we find your friend first, rescue him from the death prison, and then have him handle the registration system?" Lin Yue looked skeptical. "But why do I feel like the former is more difficult? Rescuing someone from the death prison? Has anyone ever succeeded? District F is dangerous. It's hard to get there," Su Cha also questioned. "At least District F has no admission restrictions." Zhuang Qingyan remained unfazed and even in the mood for a joke. Song Ke was concerned about another issue. "Are you sure he's willing to help us?" "That's easy. Once we find him, I'll handle it," Zhuang Qingyan promised. "But that's the death prison, not a marketplace." I said, "Brother, you are also quite crazy, aren't you? It's impossible from the get-go." "Sister, what's the death prison?" Everyone discussed in a clamor, unable to convince one another. "Stop." Song Ke took a deep breath and shouted loudly, one at a time. She paused, her gaze gradually becoming determined. "Rescuing people, I'll handle it." "Snooping around, I'll handle it," Su Cha said, turning the dagger in his hand, his tone devoid of fluctuation. Lin Yue opened her terminal. "I can arrange transportation to F180 district." The division of labor was immediately clear. Xu Xing looked left and then right, realizing he couldn't help with anything. Oh no, he had really become the kind that Zhuang Qingyan described, only capable of shouting, 666. Xu Xing pouted in frustration, and in the next moment, his eyes lit up, thinking of his value. I have money, I'll handle the spending. Fang Jishu looked at the person in front of him, his palm clenched and then relaxed. He knew that ultimately, the decisions they made were for him. These people sought his help, and came for his ability, but what did it matter? As long as he could seek revenge, he was willing to give everything. So, let's give it a try. After sleeping for so long, it was time to open his eyes. We can't stay in Ferrara. Let's go back to Tungwen for a few days to rest and discuss the specific plan, Zhuang Qingyan concluded. In the first collective meeting of the new V587 team, several parties preliminarily reached a consensus and achieved a successful conclusion. TN 666 in games or chat is used to describe someone or something that is very powerful, cool, and impressive. Tungwen Outpost. A private steamboat was opened by the guard, and it underwent immigration inspection. Song K got off the boat, connected with the terminal and the guards, and her ability information was displayed on the screen. I'm sorry, ma'am, the commission you accepted has expired, and the access permission is no longer valid. The medical support was originally just a part-time job, so Song K might spend one day as a volunteer and another day outside, and she even went to do extra work to rescue Dao Dao. Half a month later, the form of completing this B-level commission changed to a full-time one, requiring a 24-hour standby on duty. Recently, the pressure of zombie transformation has been too great, and manpower is insufficient. The magistrate has issued a new policy, explained the young guard. If you don't have access permission, you cannot enter. Zhuang Qingyan showed half of his face and glanced at him, saying, You're new, aren't you? How did you know? The young man was surprised. He had just joined the guard less than a week ago and was still doing the most basic outpost checks. He wondered if he had missed something and it was noticed. Song K knew why. When Zhuang Qingyan was in Tungwen, he spent every day in the archives flipping through information and already knew all about Tungwan's awakeners. Zhuang Qingyan nodded slightly towards him and said calmly, Last month, we helped Captain Zhao resist the invasion of the zombies. Brother, we are all law-abiding citizens, not criminals. Can you make an exception and let us in? Well, I can't make the decision, the young man scratched his head. He had heard the seniors talk about the shelter, but he wasn't sure if these were the people. If they deceived him and he let them in, he would face consequences. While the group was in a stalemate at the city gate, Zhao Lijiang happened to pass by with a middle-aged man. Song K saw this and immediately shouted, Captain Zhao. Zhao Lijiang noticed them and whispered to the person next to him. The group of people walked towards them. The leading middle-aged man had a steady temperament, determined eyes, and was dressed in the popular Tang suit from the old times. A faint herbal fragrance emanated from him. The young guard, upon seeing the man, stood at attention and saluted, with an excited voice, Good day, Lord Magistrate. So this was the magistrate of Tungwen, Song K thought to herself, the person who single-handedly organized the defense of the city and guarded the medical and pharmaceutical hub. Zhao Lijiang introduced respectfully, Dr. Chen, they are the V587 who helped us in Lujia shelter, as I mentioned. Chen Zuyi, Tungwan's highest governing officer and a doctor specializing in ancient medical practices, nodded at the group. On behalf of Tungwen, I would like to thank you. The first encounter with such a courteous magistrate made Song K a little embarrassed, waving her hands repeatedly, No need to thank us. What happened? Why are you blocked at the entrance? Zhao Lijiang asked. The young guard explained to Zhao Lijiang that Song K and her group did not have entry permits. Dr. Chen, they want to stay in Tungwen for a few days, what do you think? Zhao Lijiang inquired softly. A hint of surprise flashed in Chen Zuyi's eyes. You don't plan to stay in Tungwen? Yes, just a temporary stopover. We plan to go elsewhere afterwards, Zhuang Qingyan replied politely. Chen Zuyi sighed regretfully. He himself was just an ordinary person and would usually pay special attention to and recruit high-level awakeners. A powerful team like V-587, if they could join the guard, Tongwan's security would be more fully ensured. However, he also knew the principle of not forcing things. Building good relationships for future encounters is better than having more enemies. Tongwan won't turn away friends who have done us a favor. Let them in, consider it my special approval, Chen Zuyi said with a smile, but the necessary checks still need to be done, to confirm no zombie transformation and no threat. Of course, Zhuang Qingyan said with a smile. Chen Zuyi looked at the group one last time and said solemnly, Tongwan will always keep its doors open for you. After they entered, Lin Yue couldn't help but comment, this magistrate seems nice. Song Ke was more mature now, knowing that judging people based solely on appearances is not wise. She turned to Zhuang Qingyan, what do you think? Zhuang Qingyan pondered, Chen Zuyi is very tactful and wise. As an ordinary person, he thinks things through very thoroughly. Every nest has its eggs. Chen Zuyi's life is tied to this city. Guarding Tongwan is also protecting himself. In this sense, he is indeed a competent magistrate. The next day, Song Ke went to the 119 hospital. She came to see In Qiwen and Wang Chang, the only two remaining members of Azure Phoenix 11th Squad. When they first met, Song Ke almost didn't recognize the two. Wang Chang used to be a tall, silly guy who loved to laugh and joke around with Liang Pei, but now his entire right leg was made of bionic material. He hadn't completely adapted yet, and there was a strange awkwardness in his movements. As for In Qiwen, he had become drastically thinner. The once confident and carefree soldier who used to hold a cigarette and confidently blast open the side door of U Lab was gone. He had become much more subdued, and from a distance, he looked like another Wu Juman. Song Ke stopped in front of him, pondering how to start the conversation. If you want to inform me about Maeda and the captain, I already know, In Qiwen anticipated what she was about to say. We have an intercommunicative life detection frequency within our group. A few days ago, everyone's signals disappeared. Wang Chang lowered his head, trembling all over, his mechanical leg creaking. They say real men don't shed tears easily, but he couldn't control the dampness in his eyes. That day, I was at the scene, Song Ke said slowly. And Qiwen suddenly looked up at her, his gaze incredibly focused. So you know what happened, right? Song Ke nodded and told In Qiwen and Wang Chang everything about Manzoni Street. Bloody Hunter, and Qiwen repeated each word slowly, clenching his fists tightly, his eyes cold. Afterward, what do you plan to do? Song Ke asked. All returned to North County, B6 District. The mission failed, and all members of the Azure Phoenix 11th Squad, except In Qiwen and I, lost their lives. I have a responsibility to report everything to General Xie, In Qiwen said solemnly. Song Ke took out the 7 shoulder patches from her pocket and handed them back to In Qiwen. Take them, and go together. Thank you, In Qiwen carefully put them away, we're leaving. If there's a chance, we'll see you in North County. Song Ke leaned against the corridor, watching In Qiwen and Wang Chang leave the hospital. Song Ke, how come you're here? Lu Ning had just finished a surgery, rubbing her tired forehead. She came out to catch a breath and unexpectedly saw her. I thought you weren't volunteering anymore. I'm not. I'm going on a trip. A trip? I heard it's chaotic outside. Take care of yourself. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lu. The two of them stood quietly, feeling the breeze. Doctors in white robes hurriedly passed by the corridor behind them. In a place like a hospital, the busiest people were always the doctors, surgery after surgery, sometimes working for over 10 hours straight, yet getting only a few minutes of rest. Lu Ning noticed her gaze and sighed softly. Recently, the number of patients turning into zombies is increasing. The medical pressure is one thing, but I'm worried that the patients and their families can't handle it mentally, and it might cause trouble. Song K, Dr. Lu, may I ask you a question? Lu Ning, of course. In your eyes, what kind of person is Fang Jishu? Fang Jishu wanted to disappear from the medical community in Tungwen, and Song K respected his wishes, not revealing his whereabouts casually. But since he wouldn't say anything, she had to indirectly understand his situation from others. Brother Fang, Lu Ning's character was truly bold, and after some thought, she suddenly dropped a bombshell. Actually, I had a crush on him for a while. Song K's eyes widened instantly. Don't get me wrong, he got married a long time ago, and I gave up when I found out. Besides, I'm married now too. Song K's expression was overly exaggerated, making Lu Ning somewhat nervous, hastily waving her hands to explain. Although I don't know much about his personal life, one thing I'm sure of is that he's a good doctor, a very good one. Tungwen holds free medical consultations every year, helping those children with basic illnesses who can't afford surgery. Brother Fang always goes there, but it's secretly and anonymously. I discovered it by chance one time. Nobody in the hospital knows about it. Despite his great reputation, he goes to these consultations without seeking anything in return. He must genuinely want to help those children. As a doctor, he has a compassionate heart and is genuinely gentle with patients, Lu Ning said with a faint smile. The Fang Jishu mentioned by Lu Ning was exceptionally talented and had a proud disposition, yet his heart was extremely soft. He had nothing in common with the current guy who hung out with them every day, the weathered uncle with a beard, messy hair, and an indifference to everything except sleep. What kind of blow did Fang Jishu endure to undergo such a drastic change? New City, C55 District. Song K silently repeated this place name in her heart. She would definitely go there. Tun Chin came from New City. Song K hadn't found his body in the martial arts hall, indicating that he most likely returned to the C55 district ahead of time. If she could meet him there, she really wanted to ask what had happened in the martial arts hall during those last few days. 2 days later, Lin Yue got in touch with a private transportation convoy, paid a toll, and arranged for them to travel to F180 district. On the first day of the new calendar year in the 47th year of the new era, 4 months after the apocalypse, on an ordinary sunny day, a relatively unknown group of awakeners, V587, set off on their journey to Sin City. Chapter 67. Sin City, 1. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Black on black, a high-chassis 6-wheel off-road vehicle raced through the desert. After leaving Tungwen, V587 traveled a distance with a private transport convoy. They were dropped off on a stretch of road hundreds of kilometers away from the F180 district. The convoy leader knew he wasn't being fair, having taken the money without completing the task. He explained with an embarrassed expression, "I can only take you this far. It's not that I'm being difficult, but I fear going any further might be a one-way trip. You'll have to go the rest of the way on your own." Song K and the others had no choice but to change to a different mode of transportation. From District C to District F, the level of technology plummeted, and they couldn't find any autonomous vehicles along the way. In the end, they had to opt for primitive gasoline cars, with Su Cha taking the wheel. In the daytime desert, the sunlight was particularly harsh. The group wore protective goggles and progressed smoothly following the navigation prompts. "Have any of you been to the F180 district before?" Song K asked. "No," everyone replied. Song K looked at Zhuang Qingyan, who also shook his head. This was a completely unfamiliar city to them. It made sense. Why would ordinary people, living their lives well, come to District F? The navigation indicated that they were approaching the western border of the Alliance, entering the destination area. Song K pulled off her goggles, put them back on, and climbed through the sunroof. She leaned out of the car, facing the scorching wind and sand blowing on her face. As far as the eye could see, it was a desolate desert with no traces of a city. She couldn't help but be surprised. Was this it, the Sin City? The group circled the desert for countless rounds. The location on the navigation seemed within reach, but they couldn't get there. There were no city gates nearby, no watchtowers, and no human figures. The only distinctive features were several towering, oddly shaped quadrangular pyramids, somewhat resembling the pyramids of ancient times, standing in the open desert, reflecting a silver-white luster on their surfaces. Song K and the 5 others got out of the car and walked toward these pyramids. Upon approaching, they found tightly closed gates. They tried various methods, pulling, tugging, and prying. Su Cha tried using poison, Shu Xing used ice, and Song K attempted transformation, but gave up due to rapid mental exhaustion. None of them could break the access control. The surface of the pyramids was made of a material that exhibited extremely strong resistance to supernatural attacks. Wheelchairs were impractical in the desert, so Zhuang Qingyan switched to crutches. He walked slowly around the pyramids, observing the structure of the gates with lowered eyes. His gaze lingered for a few seconds on the overhead monitor, the closed gates, and the adjacent groove. He spoke, "It seems like this is the gateway to Sin City." "But we can't open it," Song K said. "Don't worry, if it's a gateway, there must be a key. Let's look for it again." Su Cha drove and circled the area for nearly half an hour until they saw a few blurry figures by the side of the road through the rolling dust. Through the rolling dust, those people heard the sound of the engine and ran to the middle of the road, waving to them from a distance. "There are people," Song K reminded. The off-road vehicle slowly decelerated and came to a stop. A girl with colorful braids and brown skin approached the driver's seat and knocked on the car window. Mia waited by the roadside for almost 3 hours. Apart from 2 desiccated zombies passing by, she didn't see any other living people. Finally, just before the sun set, she spotted an off-road vehicle. Mia knocked on the car window. The glass slid down slowly, opening a narrow gap. In the front seats, on the left and right, sat 2 young men. Mia smiled and said, "Friends, our car broke down. Could you tow us for a short distance? It's not far ahead." As she spoke, she pointed to the pickup parked by the road, its hood open, with a man tinkering there. "Are you also heading to the F-180 district? We're going the same way. Please help us. I've been waiting all afternoon, and you're the only ones passing by." Mia folded her hands together, her tone very sincere. "The desert is terrifying at night. I really don't want to stay outside." The 2 men exchanged a glance, but before they could speak, the back door was suddenly yanked with force. Bang! Thud! The person outside was rough, not expecting the car to be locked from the inside. He couldn't open it in one go. "Amu, don't be rude. It's very impolite," Mia scolded loudly, then turned back to the 2 men with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, we've been waiting for a long time, and my friend was worried you wouldn't take us, so he's a bit anxious." A 17 or 18-year-old girl leaned over from the back, speaking to the man in the front passenger seat. After the man listened to her, his gaze stayed on Mia for a moment and then nodded gently. 3 people, Mia made a mental note of that. "All right," said the handsome man sitting in the front passenger seat. "That's great, thank you. I'll ask Amu to hook up the towing rope, and I'll sit in your car to guide you." Finally, the car door opened, and Mia eagerly climbed in. It was then that she noticed, besides the young girl, there were 3 more people in the back row: a middle-aged man dozing off with half-closed eyes, a child with a clean face and clothes, and a brightly dressed woman wearing sunglasses. She blinked, smiling warmly, and greeted them. "Are you a family of 4 traveling together?" "The dad, the elder daughter, the young son, and this must be the stepmom, right?" Peef Tilda, the girl in the front, couldn't help but let out a light laugh. Mia looked at her in confusion. "Did I say something wrong?" The girl shook her head, her lively expression somewhat mischievous. "They are a family of 3. I'm not." "Hey!" The glamorous woman took off her sunglasses, glared at the girl, and moved her lips, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Mia muttered to herself, thinking the stepmom's temper wasn't great at all. She turned to the little boy, trying to strike up a conversation. "Little brother, where are you guys from?" The bratty kid gave a disdainful hum, completely ignoring her. Mia's forehead veins throbbed. "Damn brat." The two cars, one in front and one behind, drove for about 10 minutes in the desert and reached a desolate and rudimentary campsite. Apart from a few tents and makeshift structures, there was nothing else. "We're here. Do you want to get out and rest for a while?" Mia offered an invitation. "No need," the man in the driver's seat coldly refused. Mia held the handle of the car and said meaningfully, "I suggest you take a break here. The upcoming journey will be quite challenging. As a gesture of gratitude, I can give you some gifts." The people in the car fell silent. After a while, the man in the driver's seat and the girl got out of the car, following Mia towards the campsite. Mia led the way, glancing back a few times midway. The footsteps of these two were too light, like ghosts, always making her think they hadn't followed. At the camp entrance, Mia sighed with regret. "You know, you could have gone somewhere else for a trip. Why pick Sin City? Could it be that you believed those rumors outside and thought there are fewer zombies here?" "Is it not okay?" the girl asked in confusion. "It's okay, of course it's okay. I should thank you for coming." Mia beamed and turned towards the direction of the tents, shouting, "Asia, it's time to slaughter the sheep." As she finished speaking, a sandstorm suddenly erupted in the camp. The solid ground disintegrated abruptly, and over a dozen people burst out from beneath the yellow sand, surrounding the off-road vehicle parked in the distance. On the side of the man and the girl, another group of people emerged from behind the tents. Glinting knives were placed at their necks. A muscular man named Asia had his body covered in swirling yellow sand, his eyes fixed greedily on them, licking his lips. These ambushers were all awakeners. "Are you robbers?" the girl asked, bewildered. Mia laughed heartily. "You're mistaken. Robbers want money. We don't. We want your lives. After all, you lost sheep willingly walked into our trap." She flickered flames at her fingertips, her expression gradually turning fierce. "You're surrounded. Give up resistance, and I might consider giving you a quick death." Without further ado, she transformed the condensed flames into sharp blades and thrust them straight towards their necks. The girl swiftly moved, and somehow, Mia didn't touch even a strand of her clothes. She chuckled, revealing two faint dimples on her cheeks, and imitated Mia's words, "You are surrounded." Mia snickered. Was this person daft? Just the two of them, and they thought they could surround over 20 of us? A beautifully curved crescent moon blade appeared out of thin air. The girl held it in her main hand, lifting it up in a move that severed the knife at her neck. Following swiftly, she struck again. In the wind and sand that surged up, there was a flash of dark light. Mia's eyes widened. Her colorful braids were chopped off, falling all over the ground. Mia rolled in a sorry state, and the tall man also made his move, weaving through them like a ghost. Soon, two companions fell. "Kill the people in the car first," Mia shouted loudly into the distance. Soft persimmons had to be picked first. First, eliminate the 4 useless people, young and old, inside the car, and then turn their focus to deal with these 2 troublesome ones. Amu and Asia immediately charged towards the off-road vehicle. In an instant, the number of people attacking the vehicle reached 20. All the greedy rivers drying up in the fragrant desert the sandy ground under their feet suddenly started to flow, sinking like a swamp. They were trapped and unable to move. At this moment, a furry head popped out of the sunroof of the off-road vehicle. The haughty little brat clung to the roof with both hands and jumped up on tiptoe. Around him, numerous ice blades swiftly flew out, piercing the people trapped in the sand, turning them into hedgehogs. Mia cursed under her breath. Damn it! She had misunderstood. What stepmom and brat, what family going on a trip? These people weren't fat sheep. They were more like butchers. They were the fat sheep. Act quickly and retreat, Mia shouted in a panic, then turned and ran. A cold mental force pursued her like a shadow. Mia didn't have time to struggle. Her figure paused and fell to the ground. The last thought that flashed in her mind was, sloppy, these people did it on purpose, and we fell into their trap. A trap within a trap. Time rewound half an hour ago. People, Song K alerted. The others focused and saw several blurry figures ahead. Lin Yue frowned slightly, blocking the road in the middle. They're deliberately not letting us pass. Su Cha. Hostile approach. Zhuang Qingyan's mouth curled into a cold smile. It's getting dark soon, appearing at this time as deliberately exploiting the vulnerability of newcomers. It seems we've been treated as fat sheep. Who preys on whom is yet to be seen, Song K muttered. Since we can't find the entrance for now, why not try targeting them? Zhuang Qingyan smiled. Agreed. Fat sheep should act like fat sheep and offer themselves. Song K's eyes brightened. Mia thought she had encountered lost lambs, but little did she know, this was clearly a group of cunning and sly wolves. Song K and Su Cha took a few minutes to clear the area. They hadn't found a way to enter the F-180 district yet, and they were already encountering robbers. Could this be said to live up to the name of Sin City? Hey, what's this? Song K flipped out an object resembling a sign from Mia, which had many gray bars, 3 of which Mia had already marked in red. She fiddled with it for a while, unable to figure it out, and casually threw it to Zhuang Qingyan. The last trace of the setting sun disappeared below the horizon, and it was now dark. In the dark desert, something was stirring and danger lurked everywhere. Zhuang Qingyan rubbed the sign he had taken from Mia, his eyes lowered in thought. Let's go back to the pyramid we were at earlier. I have some new ideas. The group drove back to the vicinity of the pyramid. I've always wondered, what permissions do we need to have for the passage here to open for us? Have you heard of the 7 deadly sins? Pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust, as well as the resulting killings. Why is the F-180 district called Sin City? Perhaps, it's because only those guilty are accepted here. The monitor above identified the smell of blood on Song K and Su Cha, prompting a new response. Please show introducer information. A line of text suddenly appeared on the facade. Zhuang Qingyan raised his hand and placed Mia's sign in the depression. The tightly closed door slowly opened, revealing a spacious space resembling an elevator in front of Song K. The 6 of them stepped in, and the elevator started, descending rapidly. Ding! A crisp and pleasant reminder sounded. Welcome to Sin City. The tightly closed elevator doors opened again, and Song K, Lin Yue, and Xu Xing couldn't believe their eyes. A bizarre underground world presented itself before them. Tonight at 11 o'clock, Ross Casino's grand opening, free drinks for all. New biomimetic materials, take a look, medical technology from Tungwen. Auction of zombies and fierce beasts. We buy crystal stones of all qualities. Just a few meters from the entrance, 2 pedestrians erupted into conflict. Supernatural abilities clashed on the street, and the loser was blasted into pieces, while the winner laughed heartily and walked away. Chaos, violence, rampant crime, contempt for life. This was the real Sin City. TN black on black, of a villain, to do the dirty on another villain. Soft persimmon, Weakling Chapter 68. Sin City, 2, Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Who shares a room with whom? Beneath the desolate desert lay a bustling underground city. Here, there was no sun. Artificial lighting simulated natural light sources. Giant electronic screens were installed overhead, replacing the presence of the sky. There were no seasonal winds, no various circulations, and no natural ecosystems. Insect chirps and bird calls, as well as cats and dogs, were all artificially maintained. The overall style was rough and bold, resembling an eternal urban night. After exiting the elevator, they were greeted by a long trading street. The crowd surged, and the shouts from earlier echoed from both sides. Apart from the entrance they came through, there were many elevators in all directions. Ding! The sound of the elevator arriving rang out. People continued to come and go, making Song K and her group appear even more ordinary. Passers-by gave them a cursory glance and did not pay much attention to them. In this unfamiliar city, amidst the noisy environment and indifferent residents, Song Ke felt a moment of difficulty fitting in. Zhuang Qingyan suggested, "Let's wander around nearby, see if we can gather any information and find a temporary place to stay." The six of them roamed aimlessly on the streets. A young man wearing a duckbill cap rushed towards them. He was looking down, in a hurry to move forward, and didn't notice, colliding into Su Cha's firm chest. "Sorry." The man took 2 steps back, mumbled an apology, and then sidestepped past them. The man brushed past Lin Yue, a smirk slowly forming at the corner of his mouth. Before he could fully break into a smile, a slender hand suddenly gripped his forearm and twisted it harshly backward. "Ah!" The man's expression contorted as he screamed in pain. His arm was broken. The dark-eyed girl stared at him expressionlessly, extending her hand toward him. "The item, give it back." "Ah?" Lin Yue suddenly realized and reached for her wrist. Her terminal was gone. While everyone's attention was on Su Cha, who had been collided into, they hadn't noticed that this man was a skilled pickpocket. He had stealthily taken advantage of the moment their attention shifted and targeted her. Song Ke applied a bit of pressure, making the pickpocket's wails even more miserable. Stop, I'll give it back to you." He reluctantly pulled out the rose gold lady's wristwatch. Song Ke took it and coldly said, "Scram." The pickpocket clutched his broken arm and fled in embarrassment. "Be more careful. This place is different from other cities," Zhuang Qingyan reminded. After this incident, all 6 of them became extremely vigilant. Song Ke's group continued forward. They hadn't gone far when someone called out to them from the side of the street, "Hey, you guys." Song Ke turned around, and a woman with a sharp gaze, half-shaved hair and half-dyed purple hair, was looking at them with interest. "I've been observing you for a while. Are you interested in doing some business with me?" Song Ke, "Business?" the woman said, "Any kind of business works, as long as there's money. I'm Cheng Yi, a crystal procurer on this street, also selling various information. You're newcomers, and being clueless won't do. How about buying some information from me?" "How do you know we're new here?" Zhuang Qingyan asked casually. Cheng Yi pursed her lips and gestured to the place they had just passed. "That pickpocket you dealt with earlier has some notoriety in this area. You subdued him effortlessly, and your faces are still unfamiliar. It's easy to tell." Song Ke was cautious now, staring at her with a skeptical gaze. "Why should we trust you? What if Cheng Yi was just like Mia, with ulterior motives, wanting to take advantage of them?" Cheng Yi smiled confidently. "You're quite cautious, but no need to worry. You can ask around the trading street. I've always been honest in my dealings, never deceiving anyone. Money and goods are exchanged, and that's it." Song Ke remained skeptical, turning to her companions for their opinion. Zhuang Qingyan leaned back in his wheelchair and lazily said, "You've already identified us as newcomers. How can newcomers judge if what you're saying is true or not? Moreover, to do business, this level of sincerity isn't enough." Cheng Yi looked at the man in front of her. He appeared calm and composed, clearly a skilled negotiator. If they didn't gain some insight beforehand, this deal might fall through today. "All right, how about this? I'll give you a few pieces of information for newcomers for free. You can listen and then decide whether or not to do business with me. You may proceed." Cough cough. Next is a quick guide to integrating into Sin City. If you want to make money quickly, go to the casino or underground boxing matches. If you want to drink and have fun and hear gossip, go to Misty Summer Club. It's one of the safer chain bars in the city with fewer shady activities. When staying in a hotel, avoid those with room numbers containing Red Willow in the name. They are shady businesses that exploit out-of-towners, unless you want to wake up in the middle of the night with your head chopped off. Also, Cheng Yi pointed at Shu Xing, Lin Yue, and Song Ke in turn, "Kids and girls, remember not to go out alone. There are many human traffickers here." Cheng Yi, a savvy merchant operating in District F, proved quite shrewd, honing in on the most pressing needs of Song K and her group. At least these pieces of information were very useful to them. How do we make the trade? Song K decided to trust her for the time being and asked, and how much does it cost? Not money. Cheng Yi shook her head and casually knocked on the sign in front of her. Money depreciates the fastest. Currently, the only accepted hard currency in Sin City is crystals. With your skills, you must have a lot of good items, right? Cheng Yi greedily rubbed her hands together, practically drooling. Well, it turned out she had her eye on the crystals in their pockets from early on. V587 had indeed accumulated quite a few crystals some time ago, such as the commissions Xu Xing took during special training, the zombie wave in Luo Jia, and the upheaval in Ferrara. Altogether, they had over a dozen. Song K took out a level 1 crystal from her space, and Cheng Yi reached out to grab it, but she pulled it back just in time. We need to ask some questions first, Song K insisted. Ask away, I'll answer everything. Cheng Yi's eyes were glued to the crystal, urging them repeatedly. Zhuang Qingyan took out Mia's badge. What is this? Cheng Yi glanced at it briefly, then moved her gaze away, not very interested. That's a crime record, a special monitoring device for released convicts. The horizontal bars marked on it represent the owner's criminal index. If it exceeds 5 bars, they will be arrested again. But this is just a piece of metal. How does it monitor crimes? Xu Xing asked, puzzled, holding Song K's hand. Cheng Yi shrugged. The crime record is a technology brought from District B. Nobody knows the specific principle, but in any case, it has never made a mistake. When we entered, what was the introducer mentioned at the entrance? Zhuang Qingyan asked again. For newcomers entering Sin City for the first time, they need an introducer's guidance to activate the elevator, Cheng Yi explained. As Cheng Yi spoke, she seemed to have a realization. These people could produce a crime record but didn't know what it was. Did they eliminate their introducer directly? You guys are quite ruthless, she exclaimed dramatically. Just survival of the fittest, Zhuang Qingyan chuckled. It was the style of Sin City, and Cheng Yi suddenly understood. She restrained her expression and extended her hand to Song K, saying, have you asked enough? It's time to pay. Following the trading regulations, Song K placed the crystal in her palm. Cheng Yi received the crystal and treasured it immensely, exhaling in appreciation. She took out a magnifying glass from her pocket, pinched the edge and carefully observed while complimenting, not bad, the quality is good. After saying that, she bit into it, confirming its hardness. Song K and the others felt a chill. Oh no, that was dug out from a zombie's head. We still want to ask about. Wait, Cheng Yi raised her hand to stop them, her expression serious and solemn. This counts as the second question, 1 crystal per question. You profiteer, Xu Xing scolded. Cheng Yi immediately retorted, nonsense, what profiteer? I told you in advance, this is called clear pricing. Song K endured the pain and pulled out another crystal. Regarding death prison, how much information do you have? Death prison? Cheng Yi casually laughed. Well, just keep going along this road without turning. After about 5 kilometers, you'll see an underground sea, and that's death prison. That simple? Song K was surprised. For a prison of this level, its location was widely known without any confidentiality measures? So, how do we get in? Ha ha ha. Cheng Yi burst into laughter, holding her stomach. You guys are really newcomers, huh? Ha ha ha. Why are you laughing? Song K didn't understand. Was the question she asked really that foolish? Wiping away the tears of laughter, Cheng Yi said, come on, this is Sin City. Who hasn't been to death prison a few times? Don't believe it? Just take a good look. Almost 99% of the people coming and going on this trading street are released convicts. Indeed, with a glance, the surrounding pedestrians all wore bright red badges, with 1, 2, and even 4 bars. Cheng Yi unceremoniously took the second crystal and admired it under the artificial light. It's getting late. Although the underground city is perpetual night, I still recommend you rest early and not wander around. In the future, if you have business, remember to come to me. After leaving the trading street, the 6 of them walked for another half hour. The hotels without the name containing Red Willow were scarce. After a considerable effort, they managed to find one that was still open, though it appeared somewhat rundown. The second floor walls had a large charred patch, and ashes were falling from it. "Hello, checking in," Song K said. The receptionist glanced up and scanned them, saying, "Only 3 rooms left, want them?" "How come there are only 3? Aren't the rooms behind you also available?" Lin Yue pointed to the display screen behind the receptionist. The receptionist sighed. "There was a fight on the 2nd floor last night, and the whole floor got burnt. It's under renovation now, so no one can stay. Anyway, there are only 3 left. It's up to you if you want to stay." Song K, stay. They had been searching for quite a while, and they might not find anything better if they continued. They decided to settle for a night. "Here are the key cards." After paying for the rooms, the receptionist efficiently opened the rooms, fearing they might change their minds. Now, the question was, with 3 rooms and 6 people, how to allocate them. Holding 3 key cards, Song K looked somewhat conflicted. Shu Xing, the clever one, immediately hugged Song K's thigh and pouted. "I want to stay with Sister Tilda." Song K looked at the others. It turned out that Fang Jishu was the most indifferent. As long as he had a bed, or even an empty space on the floor, it didn't matter to him. With his vagabond style, he didn't care who he shared the room with or where he slept. He could fall asleep instantly anywhere. For the remaining people, Song K handed one of the key cards to Lin Yue, saying, "You and Su Cha can stay together." In this way, Zhuang Qingyan and Fang Jishu would be together. That settled it. Song K felt quite pleased with herself. She was indeed an astute captain. However, the result was unexpected. Su Cha spoke softly. "Not convenient." Lin Yue glanced at the keycard in her hand but didn't say anything. "Huh?" Song K was stunned, looking back and forth between Lin Yue and Su Cha. Whenever they met, the two would act together. She had always thought they had that kind of relationship. Was she mistaken? But if Su Cha didn't stay with Lin Yue, how would they divide the remaining rooms? Tricky. Song K looked conflicted, considering various combinations in her mind, always feeling like none was quite suitable. Lin Yue chimed in, "I have a suggestion." She grabbed Shu Xing's hat and pulled him off Song K's leg, saying, "Why don't you stay with me? I am also a big sister." Shu Xing flailed his arms and legs, his expression saying, "What?" Lin Yue smiled kindly. "Didn't Mia regard me as your stepmother? Don't worry, I can take care of children." Shu Xing's eyes became teary, choking out, "Woo-woo, bad woman." Lin Yue ignored him and pointed at Su Cha and Fang Jishu, "You two in one room." Finally, she turned to Song K and Zhuang Qingyan, "You both can stay in the remaining room." "There's no problem, right?" Zhuang Qingyan said. What did she mean by, "no problem"? His lips moved, about to speak. Song K said, "Okay." Zhuang Qingyan, half an hour later, "Come to my room for AM meeting." Song K stood in the corridor, reminding the others. Then she closed and locked the door. As she turned around, Zhuang Qingyan looked at her with a serious expression. "Song K, I think we need to have a serious talk." "About what?" Song K jumped into bed, stretched her limbs, and lazily yawned, showing no signs of self-awareness. Zhuang Qingyan's voice was hoarse. "I think your gender awareness is very unclear, and you don't have a good understanding of boundaries with the opposite sex. For example, not knocking before entering his room, or sharing a room with him and sleeping soundly in front of him, and so on." The list was endless. "You're still a girl. This could be very dangerous if it continues." Song K hugged a pillow, lying on her back with a blank look. "Huh? I don't understand. Can you speak in human language?" Zhuang Qingyan took a deep breath. His wheelchair slid to the edge of the bed, and he lowered his head to lock eyes with her, who was lying upside down at the end of the bed. Do you not see me as a man? Or are you just overly confident in yourself? Even when turned upside down, Zhuang Qingyan's face was still breathtakingly handsome. His features were clear and cold, his thin lips pressed tightly, and his deep black eyes seemed to want to pull people in. Song Ke blinked slowly, then reached out and pushed Zhuang Qingyan's face. She rolled over, planning to sit up and speak. However, she sat up too abruptly, and the two of them, unprepared, bumped their foreheads together with a loud thud, and both fell backward. Song Ke tumbled into the bed, while Zhuang Qingyan moved towards the back of the chair. Song Ke, Zhuang Qingyan gritted his teeth. I'm so sorry. Song Ke frantically apologized, landing on all fours. Her knees rapidly moved forward, but she miscalculated and ended up stepping into thin air, causing her to fall off the bed with a plop and land between Zhuang Qingyan's legs. Silence spread. Song Ke laughed awkwardly, her hand inadvertently resting on Zhuang Qingyan's thigh. She earnestly explained, I know you won't do anything, so sharing a room with you is not a problem. Zhuang Qingyan froze, suddenly saying in a deep voice, say it again. Huh? Song Ke was puzzled. She obediently repeated, I know you won't do anything. Zhuang Qingyan looked at her, raising an eyebrow. Song Ke, have you noticed that your stuttering has improved a lot lately? Song Ke was stunned. She hadn't realized it herself, and it was only after Zhuang Qingyan pointed it out that she belatedly reacted. Since the last time she was injured and unconscious on Manzoni Street, and woke up, she had indeed become more fluent in her speech. Though her pace of speaking was still slow, and there were occasional hesitations between sentences, her stuttering had noticeably improved. But her stuttering was congenital. She had never managed to overcome it since childhood. How's the wound in your heart? Zhuang Qingyan asked. It's much better, Song Ke replied. It had been less than a week since she was injured, and Song Ke's strength had almost recovered to about 50%. The blood vessels and tissues in her body were self-healing at an incredibly fast pace. It should be due to your second ability, Zhuang Qingyan mused. Zhuang Qingyan fell into contemplation. What exactly was Song Ke's second ability? Self-healing? But why was her language ability subtly improving? A dense fog of confusion. Zhuang Qingyan gave a serious admonition, regarding your second ability, it's crucial to keep it secret. Keep a close eye on those two individuals. Understood, Song Ke nodded solemnly. Another awkward and stifling silence. So, can you release your hand now? Zhuang Qingyan spoke expressionlessly. Chapter 69. Sin City, 3, Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Who to send to prison? Half an hour later, it was time for the meeting. Considering the chaos in Sin City, it's always wise to be more cautious. Su Cha and others entered the room. Su Cha, with hands adorned with black finger skulls, carefully inspected inch by inch along the door seams, walls, windows, and ceiling, confirming that there were no listening devices. He nodded to them. As Lin Yue entered the room, she casually asked, what happened to both of you? Song Ke and Zhuang Qingyan had red marks on their foreheads, looking slightly swollen upon closer examination. Song Ke concealed and said, it's nothing, just bumped into something. Lin Yue didn't think much of it initially, but since Song Ke seemed guilty, her gaze lingered on their foreheads for a few seconds, smiling meaningfully. Oh, how coincidental, the bump is in the same place. Song Ke cleared her throat. Let's start the meeting. The 6 individuals either sat or stood, finding their respective places. Song Ke was surprised to find that Fang Jishu was also present. It wasn't unusual for Fang Jishu to be there. They never avoided him when having small meetings before, and he would usually sleep through them, impossible to wake up even with thunder. But his state was noticeably different today, with disheveled hair tied in a messy bun at the back of his head, and his gaze was unusually clear. Song Ke recollected and realized that since they departed for F-180 district, Fang Jishu had significantly reduced his sleeping time. Although he remained as silent and unnoticeable as ever, that gloomy and world-weary face of his hadn't shown up for a long time. Zhuang Qingyan organized the existing intelligence. Clearly, Sin City is very different from what we initially thought. The existence of the death prison is not a secret, and ordinary people have a casual attitude towards it, speaking of it without hesitation. They had initially thought that the death prison was a forbidden place for incarcerating serious offenders, expected to be remote, heavily guarded, and little known. Even if ordinary people knew about it, they would avoid discussing it. However, they underestimated the madness of this sinful place, where almost everyone had a criminal record. I just went around near the underground sea. Su Cha opened the terminal and projected the images and videos he had taken. In half an hour, if he went all out, it would be enough for him to make a round trip to the underground sea. A pitch-black ocean appeared on the screen, with a still and waveless surface. There were no guards around the edges, only the familiar tetrahedral structures towering above the sea surface. It's difficult to dive in, Su Cha frowned and said. The death prison is located beneath the underground sea, with no place to land around it. The elevator on the sea's surface is the only entrance, but like the desert, it requires specific permissions to activate. Even Su Cha felt it was difficult to infiltrate, and the others were equally helpless. No need to dive in, Zhuang Qingyan said after a moment of thought. There's a simple way to enter the death prison. What method? Others looked at him one after another. Zhuang Qingyan placed Mia's badge on the table. The way the people here enter is the same way we will. You mean, commit a crime? Song Ke realized. That's right, cause a bit of trouble, get our people sent in, but not too serious. They can be released after a while. The only way to catch tiger cubs is to go into the tiger's den, Zhuang Qingyan quoted an ancient saying. It sounded absurd, but upon careful consideration, it made sense. The oversight in the supervision of the death prison was unimaginable. Who would go to such lengths to get themselves imprisoned? But who do we send in? Song Ke asked a crucial question. At this point, they still didn't know the specifics of the death prison. Sending everyone in was definitely inappropriate. The person chosen to enter the death prison would bear both hope and risk, requiring strong agility and responsiveness. I'll go, Su Cha said. I'll go too. Little Shu Xing, afraid of falling behind, raised his hand and shouted. I can go too. Surprisingly, Fang Jishu volunteered. Or, I'll go. Song Ke stood up. Zhuang Qingyan stopped her. Your injury hasn't fully healed. Take it easy. He then turned to Fang Jishu. Although you were A-level, your ability isn't quite suitable. Children should learn something good. Shu Xing was directly excluded. Finally, Zhuang Qingyan looked at Su Cha. Among us, you were the best candidate. Su Cha, hailing from the rainforest, excelled in stealth, concealment, reconnaissance, and assassination. He had top-notch individual combat skills and was an A-level poison-type awakener. Going into the death prison, at least, his self-defense was assured, and the others didn't need to worry too much about his safety. He had always followed behind Lin Yue, often overlooked, but in reality, Su Cha was a powerful awakener. The remaining task is to figure out how to get you in, Zhuang Qingyan said. Lin Yue voiced her concern, but we don't have any assurance about how long a crime would be incarcerated for. F-180 district was isolated from the outside world by yellow sands, with no internet connectivity within the area. In this dark and lawless underground city, there were no rules or regulations to follow. Everything relied on their own exploration. If it was just a minor offense and they were detained for a few days, that would be fine. However, if they were imprisoned for several months or even a year or more, their plans would be in jeopardy. Determining the degree of offense for committing a crime was extremely difficult. Song Ke recalled something. The people at the City G gate weren't arrested. When they first arrived, they witnessed a street fight, with one side even committing murder, but the murderer was not apprehended. I have another question. How does the death prison apprehend people? Lin Yue asked. When a criminal record reaches 5 bars, what does the death prison deploy to capture the criminals? Is it something like the Awakener security squad in Tumwin, or the AI patrol robots in Ferrara? In case the criminal is an Awakener and is unwilling to surrender, can they ensure they'll be able to subdue the target? Zhuang Qingyan tapped his fingers on the wheelchair, deep in thought. What you all have said is correct, so before taking action, it's best to find a demonstration first. As they were discussing, there was suddenly a commotion from upstairs. They were on the 3rd floor, and the noise was coming from the 4th floor, sounding like a fight. Song K made a quick decision, let's go check it out. In the stairwell of the 4th floor, a desperate-looking waiter covered his face and said, "Why is there another fight? Are we not allowed to do business?" A burly man stood in the corridor, his arm suddenly swelling 4 or 5 times its size, turning into a massive chunk. It slammed down with a bang, shattering the door, and the person inside didn't even have time to cry out before meeting a sudden death. The man momentarily lost control of his supernatural ability, smashing a hole through the hotel wall, allowing the cold wind to rush in. 4 bars, Su Cha reminded in a low voice. Song K and the others looked intently, and indeed, the man's badge on his arm had lit up with 4 bright red bars. And just at the moment when he killed the guest and smashed the hotel wall, the 5th bar slowly lit up. With all 5 bars filled, the criminal record rebooted, and the person committing the crime would be sent back to the death prison. Lucky break, Zhuang Qingyan said, referring to the demonstration he mentioned. Just as Song K was about to see the people coming to arrest him, something strange happened. The man suddenly clutched his head with both hands, violently trembling all over, his upper body bending into a strange shape, writhing in agony. After a few seconds, it was as if he was being choked, and his voice abruptly stopped. Then the man stood up stiffly, with a vacant look in his eyes, losing consciousness. He moved forward with rigid limbs, guided by the 5 glowing bars, passing by Song K and the others who were watching. "What is this, Cotard's syndrome?" Fang Jishu suddenly spoke up. Zhuang Qingyan nodded slowly. "Exactly. The cause should be his criminal record." Lin Yue asked in confusion, "What are you talking about? What's Cotard's syndrome?" Zhuang Qingyan gestured to the side. "Let Dr. Fang explain it to you." Fang Jishu looked serious. Cotard's syndrome, also known as the walking corpse syndrome, is caused by pathological changes in the parietal and frontal lobes of the brain, with delusions of emptiness and negation as the main symptoms. During an outbreak, a normal person will briefly enter a state of a walking corpse, believing that their organs have decayed, leaving only an empty shell of a body, with the whole world devoid of anything. This is accompanied by dullness of sensation, disintegration of personality, and other abnormal behaviors. The man faced the direction of the death prison, moving stiffly. He stepped into the nearest elevator, and he actually turned himself in this way. There was no need to send someone to arrest him. All criminals triggering the effects of the 5 bars would voluntarily return to the death prison like a walking corpse. But how is this achieved? Song K found it hard to understand. Criminal record. Zhuang Qingyan brought out Mia's badge again. "I guess the particle currents embedded inside contain the triggering frequency range of Cotard's syndrome, which forcibly stimulates the brain. This shouldn't be achievable with the technological level expected in District F. It seems the Alliance has put a lot of effort into constructing and maintaining the death prison." Lin Yue frowned. With such an electric current stimulating the brain, wouldn't it lead to dementia? "In the long run, it's possible," Fang Jishu said in a deep voice. "But what about Su Cha?" She hesitated, looking at Su Cha. "It's fine, I don't have a criminal record yet," Su Cha replied. For Sin City, they were still newcomers, and their past sins were defaulted to be cleared. Currently, they were as clean as a blank sheet. However, new problems had emerged. Since he was a first-time offender and didn't have a criminal record monitoring, how could Su Cha voluntarily turn himself into the death prison? It was a headache. Let's put the matter of the criminal record aside and focus on how to do something bad, Zhuang Qingyan suggested. The others all looked at Su Cha. After all, he was the one going to prison, and he was also the one to commit the bad deed. We'll do our best to send you to jail? Song Ke blinked, wearing a sincere expression. Su Cha. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the temperature on the desert surface approached 70 degrees Celsius. This was the hottest time of the day, and the scorching sun in the sky almost made people dizzy. The scorching hot quicksand could cook raw eggs. A group of awakeners was hunting zombies in the oasis camp. The zombies in the desert were noticeably different from those in the city, with slender bodies, dry skin, and visible cracks on the surface, but their movements were exceptionally agile, leaping and jumping like monkeys. The one they had their eyes on, conservatively estimated, was an evolved level 2 zombie. This group fought with the zombies for a full 40 minutes, exhausted and with throats almost smoking, but they were close to succeeding. Suddenly, another group of people jumped out from the side. Robbery. The leading girl held 2 crescent moon-shaped knives, rotating them crosswise, shouting aggressively. Another elusive figure flashed from behind them, surrounded by a ghostly green poisonous mist, charging towards the barely breathing zombie. Swish, the blade flashed, and the zombie let out a miserable scream, falling slowly. In the shattered head, a green crystal faintly sparkled. Before anyone could see clearly, it was instantly snatched by the man. Damn, daring to steal my crystal, you're tired of living. Watch me chop you all up. After struggling hard for half a day, they were intercepted at the last moment. The awakeners were infuriated and wished they could smash the intruders' heads. You coward, I hate that you're such a coward, Tilda. A sweet and soft singing voice rang in their ears, and this group of people felt their bones turn soft as if melting, and their mental strength was extinguished in succession, unable to lift their arms. In the shadows, the poisonous mist man used his knives to cleanly topple the people at the scene and leisurely retreated with the crystal. You forgot to shout the slogan. Behind the sand dune, a clear child's voice sounded. The knife-wielding girl also looked at the poisonous mist man and urged, hurry up, shout the slogan. The man frowned, his expression looking extremely strange, and there was a fleeting distortion at the corner of his mouth. In the end, he convinced himself and, with a blank expression, said to the stunned people on the ground, V587, who's the coolest of them all? Silent but cool, I'm called Su Cha, remember my name. After saying that, amidst the shocked gazes of the fallen people, the man hastily retreated like a sandstorm and disappeared without a trace. The group of awakeners stood still for a long time, cursing in a daze. Damn, where did this show-off come from? Ha 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 ha. Lin Yue laughed heartily, tears welling up at the corners of her eyes, completely losing her image as the sweet girl she used to be. She wiped her tears while exclaiming, oh my goodness, who thought of this slogan? It's too refreshing. Song Ke puffed up her cheeks in silence. I thought of it. Wasn't it quite good? Despite being just a few short sentences, it revealed their team name and the name of the suspect, Su Cha, making it clear who was the wrongdoer. If those people wanted to report a case, they could find the person. Song Ke looked proudly at his companions, but they were all holding back laughter except for Su Cha. As for Su Cha, his face was as dark as a boiler. Song Ke felt inexplicably guilty. All right, stop laughing, everyone. Su Cha, do you have any adverse reactions? Zhuang Qingyan said, telling everyone to stop laughing, but his own lips had a faint upward curve. No, Su Cha shook his head. Was robbing allowed? Or perhaps, it couldn't be done in the desert. Let's try it back in the underground city. The group took the elevator back underground, but there was still no abnormality. It seems the degree is not enough. Committing robbery in Sin City doesn't even qualify for a trial. Let's discuss something. Su Cha, usually reserved and quiet, spoke up for the first time. I can cooperate with any experiments you want to try, but can we change the slogan? Well, you'll have to ask the captain. Zhuang Qingyan's eyes curved, unreservedly passing the responsibility. Song Ke felt deflated. TN The only way to catch tiger cubs is to go into the tiger's den. Idiom, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Metaphorically, you can't succeed without experiencing the danger. Chapter 70. Sin City, 4, Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Sent in, hey, did you hear? Hear what? Recently, there's this guy named Su Cha. Oh man, he's truly wicked, doing all sorts of evil deeds, deception, robbery, arson, murder. He even captured a child and enslaved him. This guy is beyond bad. When he sees a dead body, he'd step on it a couple of times. Mias and Gaidas, several teams have been wiped out by him. Impossible, really? Can he take out so many people by himself? Well, not exactly. He operates with a gang. What's their name again? My memory is terrible. I can't recall it right now. It's called V587, a voice nearby reminded him. Right, V587. They're quite imposing, shouting slogans every time after doing bad things, afraid that others won't remember them. Oh, Cheng Yi, do you also know about these people? Cheng Yi twirled her purple highlighted hair with her finger but remained silent. She thought, not only do I know too well. They were looking to buy information from me yesterday, and I even know who their next target is. The two speaking individuals approached cautiously. Do you have information on them? Share it with us. Cheng Yi tapped her emblem and said, sure, do you have crystals for exchange? The person asking choked a bit, muttering softly, stingy, money's all you care about. Cheng Yi shrugged nonchalantly, you guys have really exaggerated the rumors. Child slave, they were together to begin with. And as for the arson and robbery, it was Gaida losing a level 2 crystal, and in frustration, spreading false information. We don't care if it's true or false. The more sensational, the better. By the way, Cheng Yi, why do I feel like you have a bias towards this V587? Cheng Yi affectionately touched her new crystal bracelet she had strung together in the past few days, with a mysterious smile. Just wait and see, there's more drama to come. Desert Camp. Song K wore a troubled expression, sighing, sigh tilde. Shu Xing held his sunburnt face in his hands and sighed along, sigh tilde, sigh. Lin Yue, infected by them, held her head and let out a long sigh too. The atmosphere was gloomy and filled with despair. It's no wonder they were so disheartened. In these past few days, V587 had gained some notoriety, unfortunately for the wrong reasons. They tried all sorts of methods, theft, robbery, intimidation. They did all sorts of bad things, but the effect? Zilch. Su Cha was still hanging out with them just fine. Do you think those people have reported the incidents? How come there's not a peep? Song K muttered to herself. Every time they committed a crime, they practically wanted to announce their names through a loudspeaker. Could these victims please show some backbone and use the legal weapon to protect themselves? Oh, wait, in Sin City, there seemed to be no such thing as law. Song K was getting sunstruck, her gaze unfocused, drifting into wild thoughts. A bottle of cold water was pressed against her face, and Zhuang Qingyan kindly advised, have some water, snap out of it. The provider of the cold water was Shu Xing, the mobile fridge of V587. In such scorching conditions, the existence of an ice element awakener was truly a godsend. Shu Xing finally got his wish and became the team's mainstay. Now, everyone couldn't do without him. At present, ordinary crimes go unpunished, Zhuang Qingyan summarized, so, only one possibility remains. What possibility? Su Cha leaned against the wall, adjusting his fingerless gloves. Murder, Zhuang Qingyan announced the word heavily. But the people at the elevator weren't captured, Song K expressed confusion. The two people at the elevator had a dispute that escalated into a life-and-death duel. In the rules of Sin City, the winner doesn't have to take responsibility for the other person's death, so it doesn't count as killing, Zhuang Qingyan explained. What we need to do is to legitimately kill someone without a direct conflict. The key is, who do we kill? Lin Yue asked. Although criminals roamed the streets here, they weren't indiscriminate killers. They couldn't just randomly pick someone to massacre, right? Louis the Ripper, Zhuang Qingyan said a name. From the intelligence provided by Cheng Yi in the last exchange, this person is active near the trading street. He has a fierce and cruel personality, takes pleasure in torturing the weak, specifically targeting children and single women. After killing the victims, he would mutilate their bodies, hence the nickname. Lin Yue and Xu Xing listened with furrowed brows, their expressions filled with hatred and disgust. Such scum deserves nothing less than death. Louis has a significant reputation in the underground, and he's already at level 4. If we eliminate him, the death prison will definitely detect it. If this isn't enough to get Sucha inside, then we might have to consider alternative ideas. Doesn't this count as ridding the people of a menace? Song K always felt something was off. It feels like we're doing a good deed. Zhuang Qingyan shook his head. Remember, in Sin City, there's no goodness, no good people. Everything we do is to achieve our goals. Song K was convinced, eager to get started. All right, let's go. We'll take him down tonight. Lin Yue chimed in. Let's prepare to give Louis a nightmare. Let's go. Xu Xing clenched his small fist, encouraging everyone. Yeah, but Louis is cautious in his actions. We need to discuss how to lure him out. I think there's a person best suited for this task. Zhuang Qingyan smiled faintly, and the corners of his peach blossom eyes curved cunningly. Xu Xing, why does this sound so familiar? Late at night, in the alleys behind the trading street. A young boy, dressed in a manner suggesting affluence and about 10 years old, roamed the desolate path. Every 2 steps he took, his shoulders would tremble in fear, and there was a faint quiver in his voice. Woo-woo, sis, where are you? A cold, eerie wind blew from behind, and the young boy anxiously looked back, finding nothing. He suppressed his urge to cry, wiped away his tears, and ran deeper into the alley. Accidentally stumbling over a stone, he fell with a thud. The boy, at a loss, rubbed his knee, unable to hold back any longer, and burst into loud cries. The crying continued for about 10 minutes until a pair of men's feet suddenly appeared in front of him. The boy stopped sobbing and looked up at the newcomer, dumbfounded. Louis, his face scarred all over, squeezed out a strange smile and said, "Little boy, are you lost?" The young boy was startled, his pupils trembling, and his little legs frantically kicked, trying to retreat. Louis seemed to enjoy seeing the boy's terrified expression, his mouth curling, and his eyes growing more excited. He observed the boy in secret for a long time, making sure there was no one else around. Only then did he reveal himself, unable to contain his excitement. Tonight's delicious snack had arrived. Louis slowly raised his right arm. The boy suddenly noticed that there was no hand on it. Instead, there was a rapidly spinning cutting blade. "Don't be afraid, Uncle is here to accompany you. You'll fall asleep soon." Louis raised the deadly weapon high, aiming it at the boy's chest, about to make the cut. Suddenly, the boy flashed the most sickeningly sweet smile at him. Louis's face changed drastically, and his danger radar beeped frantically. He then realized that his legs were frozen. "You brat, you're an awakener." Xu Xing promptly got up from the ground, looking composed and not at all like before when he was lost and scared. He had cried for almost 10 minutes. Louis was quite cautious, never revealing himself. His throat was now dry, and he was irritated, feeling cold and impatient. He had no idea how many times he cursed Louis in his mind. Blah blah, Xu Xing stuck his tongue out at Louis. "You're done for." As soon as he finished speaking, a ghostly figure flashed in the darkness and ruthlessly attacked the immobilized Louis. Louis was utterly shocked. This person had been hiding so close, yet he hadn't sensed anything. A surge of murderous intent came at him from above, and Louis, unable to move his lower body, quickly raised his right arm to block. Clang! The cutting blade blocked a sharp dagger, and its spinning speed slowly came to a stop. Just as Louis heaved a sigh of relief, he realized that something was wrong. Dark green rust spots appeared on the blade's edge, spreading rapidly at an astonishing speed, creeping over his arm, mouth, and neck, gradually covering his entire face. This was Poison Ability Awakener. Ah! A piercing scream echoed in the alley, heard far into the distance. What's that sound? It sounds a bit like Louis the Ripper? He wouldn't be slaughtering women and children again, would he? This guy is really bad luck. No. Why do I feel like it's him screaming? The two speaking individuals exchanged a glance. They were bold and daring, venturing into the alley in the darkness to investigate. On the cold ground, Louis lay with a ghostly green complexion, his eyes wide open, resembling a poisoned frog, devoid of life. Inserted into the still-cutting blade on his right arm was a small flag. The individuals examining the scene approached for a closer look, and there were some small words written on it, done by V587 Su Cha. Both of them. It's often said that those who do bad deeds should remain nameless, but this Su Cha seemed quite arrogant. Louis the Ripper was dead, killed by Su Cha from V587. The sensational news quickly spread throughout the entire underground city. Criminals whispered to each other, feeling uneasy. Who exactly was this Su Cha person? Stirring up trouble for several days in a row, unsettling both the desert and the underground. This time, he took down Louis. What about next time? Will it be their turn? And the V587 team, known for their strange slogans, where did they suddenly come from? Their actions were so audacious, showing complete disregard for them. It was infuriating, truly infuriating. Gaeta, what are you up to? HMPH, settling scores. Gaeta, who had his level 2 crystal stolen by Su Cha in the desert before, gathered a large group of awakeners who had suffered similar persecution. They decided to confront Su Cha. Daring to be so arrogant in Sin City, watch me make him pay. It's still no use. Song K rested her chin on the wheelchair, her face full of disappointment. Her semi-long hair fell on Zhuang Qingyan's shoulder. A few strands brushed against his collarbone, creating a ticklish sensation. It had been 2 days since Su Cha took down Louis the Ripper and he still hadn't been arrested. Couldn't they even catch a murderer? Sin City truly lived up to its name as a paradise for villains. They could practically do as they pleased. In the silence, Fang Jishu suddenly spoke up. Why could the man in the hotel that night activate the criminal record? Lin Yue said, oh? Yeah, why could he enter the death prison? The few of them pondered seriously at the mention. When it came to murder, the man did indeed commit the act. However, they had confirmed that just killing someone wouldn't allow entry into the death prison. Other than that, if there was something else special, it was. Song K blinked, and a light bulb went off in her head, thinking of something. Perhaps Sin City simply didn't care about the life or death of criminals, but if you disrupted the foundation of this city. Bang! The front door was kicked open, and a large group of fierce awakeners stormed in. The people who were originally dining in the restaurant sensed danger and scattered one after another, the faster the better. Even the boss hid. The hall was empty, leaving only Song K and her group of 6. Gaeta gave them the middle finger, provoking them like mad. Hey, Su, I'll kill you today. Without another word, the group rushed at them, using both their hands and feet, unleashing their abilities towards V587. Chaos erupted on the scene. Su Cha kicked the person in front of him, and one of the awakeners had legs similar to Louis, both composed of mechanical cutting blades. He stumbled and fell backward, slipping on the ground. He collided with the nearby running elevator, and the sharp blades sizzled against the doorframe, quickly cutting out a small crack. Su Cha's poison mist hovered over it, swiftly corroding into the steel reinforcement in the vacancy. Shush, shush. Faint sounds came from inside the elevator cabin. In just a few seconds, the entire doorframe collapsed with a loud bang, taking the Esper whose foot got caught in with it. The elevator plunged uncontrollably into the depths of the underground. Boom! A deafening noise shook the entire Sin City, freezing everyone's actions. Just when Song K and the others were uncertain about what was happening, the giant screen above instantly changed direction. Numerous bright artificial light sources automatically focused on Su Cha, blinding him. He could only shield his eyes with his hands. Su Cha was illuminated all over, as if standing at the center of a spotlight, becoming the most conspicuous presence. Snowflakes flickered on the screen, and then, as if the power was cut off, everything turned pitch black, with no imagery. After 2 seconds, a cold and stern voice echoed throughout the entire city. "Criminal Su Cha, you are under arrest. Immediately drop your weapons and surrender. Proceed to the death prison for surrender. I repeat, criminal Su Cha, you are under arrest. Immediately drop your weapons and surrender. Proceed to the death prison for surrender. I repeat." After repeating the announcement 3 times, the light disappeared, and the artificial sky vanished, but the danger wasn't lifted. Hundreds of heavy weapons appeared above their heads, their particle cannons aimed at Su Cha. The light gradually condensed, and if he dared to resist, regardless of the Awakener's level, they would be instantly blasted into pieces. Su Cha dropped the dagger and slowly raised his hands. He glanced back at Song K and the others, nodding discreetly to them. Then, step by step, he walked in the direction of the underground sea.